Result: congratulations, Miss Bennett. Your permanent residence permit for Finland has been approved. Would you like to keep your domestic identity as well? The clerk asked. Upon hearing the question, I shook my head firmly. No, please cancel it. The clerk cautioned. Miss Bennett, I must inform you. Once the cancellation process begins, all your previous information and records will be permanently erased. The result is irreversible. If you're certain about cancellation, please sign here. He presented a cancellation application form. Without hesitation, Faye signed her name. She drove aimlessly around the city until dusk fell. Eventually, Faye entered the downtown area, where the World Trade Center's massive digital billboard was playing clips from a recently viral reality show featuring married couples. While waiting at a red light, she caught James Guthrie's famous romantic scene. The video showed the Architects Gala award ceremony. James, not yet 30, had received the highest honor, but instead of celebrating, he appeared nervous and hastily left the venue. A reporter followed him for a live interview, asking why he was leaving so hurriedly. Facing the camera with surprise, he shyly replied, I'm going to propose today. She's always punctual, and if I'm late, the proposal might fail. There will be countless future Architects Galas, but I only get one chance to propose. What a dream romance, I'm obsessed, said the voice-over. On screen, James's gaze was determined, his words confident. This scene made two young women standing on the sidewalk clasp their hands together in excitement. James must be head over heels for Faye. I mean, it was the Architects Gala, so many industry bigwigs were there, and he just slipped away. That's nothing. The romantic things James has done for Faye are countless. That fleeting glance at her runway show when she was 19 from then on, he attended every single one of her shows. When she mentioned liking emeralds, he spent $700 million at an auction to buy a complete set of emerald jewelry just to make her smile. They weren't even dating, then so many people online were instantly jealous. How could such a perfect man exist? A honking sound came from behind, bringing Faye back to reality. The light had turned green. As she drove away, she glanced at the silhouettes of the two girls in her rearview mirror. The dim light in the car cast shadows across her face, making her expression unreadable. A cold smile formed on her lips. Perhaps marriage was indeed the grave of love. Even after getting what you wanted, it meant nothing in the end. This man, who had promised to love her forever, had ultimately broken his vow, playing the game of the red rose and the white rose behind her back. In an online poll asking, "Who is your model husband?" James Guthrie ranked first, yet even a publicly voted good husband couldn't avoid cheating and keeping a mistress. Now she understood that whenever he claimed sudden inspiration had struck and he needed to return to his studio to create, he was actually entangled in passion with that alluring woman. She felt as though someone had gripped her throat and pushed her into the ocean depths. It was a feeling of suffocation and bone-chilling cold. Her phone received more photos of a man in the throes of passion, making her expression distant. James had confessed his love to her countless times. After her final rejection, she told him that if he could accept her past, they could discuss a future together. Faye revealed to him that she was an orphan who had grown up in an acrobatic troupe. The runway goddess he admired was just a homeless, pitiful girl saddled with an exorbitant contract. She had no interest in romance, afraid of getting hurt and fearful of love. After hearing this, James became even more protective of her. He promised, "We'll never speak of your past days again. From now on, I'll shelter you from all storms." With a grand gesture, he paid off her prohibitively expensive contract penalty, freeing her to soar. She remembered that day when he examined her contract, saying deliberately, "Trust me, the future will only get better." In that moment, her defenses completely crumbled, and her heart fully surrendered. He couldn't talk to people without mentioning her 3 sentences in, constantly checking her latest updates, securing advertising deals and sponsors for her. Everyone who knew him said he was both Faye's super devoted boyfriend and her #1 fan. At their wedding at Goodwood, he gazed at her with tender eyes, giving her the illusion that she was his entire world. He said the proudest achievement of his life was marrying her, and if he ever betrayed their vows of loyalty, his punishment would be to lose what he cherished most. Well, that punishment should come to pass now. She would change her identity and leave forever, completely disappearing from his world. Her eyes rimmed with red as she drove to the television studio to record the day's reality show. As soon as she arrived backstage, Faye was tightly embraced by James. "I called you, but you didn't answer. I told you I'd drive you here tonight. Why didn't you listen? Are you trying to worry your husband to death?" As he spoke, he looked down at her, noticing her pale face and red-rimmed eyes. His heart ached with concern. Frowning, he gently cupped her face. "Tell me, has someone been bullying you? I'll make them pay." She casually moved his hand away and calmly replied, "No, just wind tears. I had the window down while driving." Hearing her explanation, James's furrowed brow gradually relaxed. His eyes were full of affection as he gently arranged the loose strands of hair at her temples, like a man deeply in love. But she had come to recognize a harsh reality: this man had divided his heart in two, with two women living in it. After they finished with hair and makeup in the dressing room, she received photos from Lily. An open Louis Vuitton suitcase filled with empty condom boxes. "I didn't realize we'd used so many. Oh, forgot to mention the important part: he doesn't use condoms anymore. Our baby will be absolutely gorgeous." She lowered her head to conceal the emotions surging within her, but the hand holding the phone trembled uncontrollably. Faye turned off the screen, feeling as if her neural pathways had been forcibly severed, leaving her suffocating. With effort, she shifted her gaze toward him. James, seeming to sense her attention, responded with a familiar smile, a smile that once brought her comfort but now felt incredibly ironic. Their marriage was nothing but a rotten apple, eaten from within by worms, maintaining only a glossy exterior. She had long been strangled by the vines of betrayal. In the observation room, there weren't many camera shots dedicated to the observing guests. She glanced sideways at James and noticed him sneaking peeks at his phone, his finger constantly scrolling up and down. Her eyes burned red. That woman must have sent more provocative photos. She silently observed his subtle movements, casually flipping her hair to hide her moist eyes. By the time recording finished, it was already 1 in the morning. James quickly walked over to her, his expression anxious. "Honey, I suddenly got inspired. Sorry, I can't accompany you home. I need to go to the office." He helped Faye gather her thick hair, then held her tightly against his chest. "Honey, I hate being apart from you. I need you to understand. Be careful on your way home." Faye's eyes trembled slightly. He lied to her now with such practiced ease. Once, this man who had pursued her despite countless rejections had looked at her with tear-filled eyes and said, "In this life, I recognize only you as my love. I want no one but you." This man who had vowed to stay by her side now claimed he couldn't bear to part from her, while in reality he was rushing off to another woman. Before she could speak, James's phone buzzed. He released her, glanced at the message, and hurriedly drove away. She stood frozen in the night breeze, watching his car until it disappeared from view. Only then did she murmur, "I will never forgive you." She would leave, vanishing completely from his world, a fitting response to his infidelity. Upon returning home, Faye immediately showered, trying to wash away the gloom of the day. Just as she put on her bathrobe and entered the bedroom, her phone received a video. In the video, Lily was blindfolded with a tie identical to the one James had worn tonight. She wore revealing lingerie with little dog ears on her head, her pale neck encircled by a black collar, crawling aimlessly on the bed as if lost. Her voluptuous figure trembled with each movement, her voice like a nightingale's. "Master, come punish me." Soon, a familiar male figure pounced on her like a hungry wolf. Faye frantically swiped the screen, closing the messaging app. She tried breathing deeply to relieve the tightness in her chest. She thought she already knew about their relationship, that she had grown accustomed to these intimate scenes. But she had underestimated the video's impact. It felt as though her very core had been submerged in seawater, a salty coldness rapidly spreading throughout her body. She couldn't sleep, sitting silently on the bed until dawn. Her phone began vibrating again as Lily sent another message. "His stamina is incredible. My waist nearly broke last night. I heard your birthday is coming up. I have a surprise for you. I'll send you the location. Be there at 3 p.m. sharp." Faye's grip on the phone tightened as if trying to crush it. When James returned home, he found Faye sitting by the bed with bloodshot eyes, her phone smashed on the floor. His heart sank as he quickly knelt at her feet, his tone cautious. "Darling, what's wrong? Your eyes are so red, and your hands and feet are ice cold. He took her hands in his, rubbing them gently. Faye finally snapped back to reality. She tried to force a smile, but found it impossible. She lowered her head to avoid his gaze, her voice hoarse. I watched a horror movie and couldn't sleep all night. James embraced her sympathetically. Don't watch those anymore. You nearly scared me to death. Just as she was about to reply, a phone call came through. Mr. Guthrie, the venue setup you ordered is complete. His face flashed with panic. You've got the wrong number. Seeing her expression unchanged, James realized she hadn't heard the caller's words and sighed in relief. Feigning annoyance, he said, My phone number seems to have been leaked. I keep getting strange calls. She coldly watched his act, managing a slight smile. Honey, you didn't sleep well last night. Let the driver take you for a spa treatment today. Faye just looked at him blankly without responding. The man took her silence as agreement. Seeing her gather her things to leave, James eagerly drove away as well. She looked at the car tracker's final location, a luxury hotel in Hillcrest. It matched exactly the location Lily had sent her. Suddenly everything made sense. Her eyes grew cold. James had lied to her again. This was originally where James planned to celebrate her birthday, but a few days ago he suddenly changed his story. Honey, a young couple wants to propose there and contacted me. He seems to really love that girl and wants to give her the perfect proposal. But if you don't agree, I won't let them have it. Yet there was no young couple. This was all to give the venue to Lily. He had calculated that her soft heart wouldn't disappoint lovers in the throes of romance. Faye's heart ached with disappointment in this man. He had lied to her again. She scoffed. How many more secrets was he keeping? At 3 p.m., Lily sent another message right on time. Take the panoramic elevator from the top floor. You'll see an amazing view. I tried it for you. It's gorgeous. From the panoramic elevator, Faye's view was filled with a sea of flowers. Romantic pink, passionate red, pure white, elegant blue. A path of roses stretched out, reaching about 10 feet high. In the center of the venue was a three-dimensional heart made of roses, with Lily's name. As the elevator gradually descended, she saw a figure in a snow-white wedding dress walking from the flower path toward the center of the venue. That silhouette was unmistakably Lily. Faye's eyes involuntarily fixed on the scene as Lily sent another message. It was designed for you, but one tear from me and it became his proposal venue for me. Take the hint and get out of the way. You're pushing 30, always demanding attention. How impolite. Your last name is Bennett. I'll call you Aging Bennett from now on. Lily started live streaming the romantic proposal scene, immediately attracting many onlookers. Dressed in an elaborate wedding gown, Lily appeared on camera, sharing her joy at being proposed to. The comments section filled with congratulations and envy for such a fairytale romance. Lily held a bouquet, her waist encircled by a large hand. The hand's owner wasn't on camera, but the scar on the thumb instantly revealed to Faye that it was James. It was ironic that this scar was from when he'd peeled fruit for her once, and now it became evidence of James's betrayal. Faye's tears fell uncontrollably. Her husband was now proposing to another woman. Where did that leave her a discarded wife? Soon comments started asking, this design looks like Miss Bennett's style. Is it her work? That's right, it's his work, Lily replied sweetly on the live stream. Wow, how can I hire her? Didn't Miss Bennett say she would only design venues for her wife in this lifetime? A look of triumph flashed in Lily's eyes. All you need is a husband who loves you enough. Lily turned toward the hotel, her smile meaningful. She asked sweetly, Darling, am I the most beautiful bride-to-be? Am I the one you love most? Though the man wasn't on camera, Faye heard his indulgent laugh. Lily is the most beautiful. Today is the day I'm proposing to you. Who else would I love? But Lily wasn't satisfied with this ambiguous answer and pressed James for a clear response. All right, I'll say it, he conceded. The woman I love most is Lily Sherman. All other women are just passing through. Lily glanced toward the hotel tower, her eyes full of malice. Her lips moved, silently mouthing to the camera, He's mine. The livestream viewers thought Lily was simply showing off her love, but Faye clearly understood Lily was declaring ownership to her. As his bedmate, she could easily recognize that these words came from his heart. Collapsing onto a lobby sofa, tears blurred her vision. Her spine felt as if ice shards had penetrated it, leaving her completely shattered. For some reason, Faye dialed James's number. The call didn't connect. She stubbornly tried several more times, listening to the busy tone. She laughed bitterly. The man who once professed his love for her now called her a passerby. In the past, never mind a phone call if she merely said she wanted to see him, he would immediately drop his work and rush to her. Now she could only say that people's hearts change easily. She had lost all hope in him. All her resentment and love-hate dissolved in this moment. She felt fortunate to be leaving soon. She never wanted to see James Guthrie again. Faye rose to leave but felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Warm blood trickled down her thigh. Her vision darkened, and the last thing she heard was someone shouting, "Help, someone collapsed. You're showing signs of threatened miscarriage, but fortunately the baby is safe." During pregnancy, avoid extreme emotional fluctuations. Faye recalled the doctor's instructions, her eyes filled with bewilderment. Life had played a cruel joke on her. That night, she returned home to find messages from James. "Honey, I was too busy to answer your calls today. Can't make it home tonight, too much work." She knew these were all James's lies. She should have confronted him, but she no longer cared. There were more urgent matters to handle. She contacted a real estate manager to sell all her properties, including the sensational villa James had designed for her, named Love Nest. All the jewelry and luxury items he'd given her were listed on resale platforms. Because the prices were generally below market value, they were quickly snatched up. The photo albums containing their loving memories were fed one by one into a shredder, reduced to dust. She wanted nothing from James. Erasing all traces of their past was her way of saying goodbye. The next day at noon, while checking resale orders on her phone, her bedroom door was suddenly pushed open. James strode toward her, pulling her into his arms. His voice trembled slightly. "Honey, I understand if you're angry about me not answering your calls. You can hit me or scold me, but why are you selling our love nest? I designed that house for you with my own hands. Every detail represents my love for you. Are you selling it because you don't want me anymore? Are you leaving me?" She gently pushed him away, escaping his embrace. She examined his eyes carefully. They were filled with sorrow, like an abandoned puppy. She found it laughable. He would be heartbroken if she left him, yet why did he do things that broke her heart? In the past, she would have melted instantly, agreeing to anything he asked. But now she simply gazed at the red-eyed man and calmly said, "You're overthinking it. I just don't like it anymore. I've married you, it's not like I can run away." Inwardly, she laughed coldly. So he knew she might leave him, then why cheat? Was he so well fed at home that even garbage outside looked appetizing? Or did he think his disguise was so perfect he could fool everyone? "Darling, if you love me so much, why not design another house for me?" Currently, she didn't want to alert him to her plans, so she lied that she sold it simply because she didn't like the original design. Hearing this, James indeed stopped fixating on the love nest issue. He solemnly promised, "Honey, I guarantee you'll be completely satisfied with the new villa design." Just the thought of her leaving made him this upset. She was truly curious how he would react when she completely disappeared. She swallowed her disgust and patiently soothed him. Only after hearing her repeatedly promise that she wouldn't leave him did James's anxious heart gradually calm down. But James still felt uneasy. He kept telling himself not to be paranoid. Faye had married him, and they would be happy forever. His job now was to avoid revealing anything suspicious. He had always done well at this, surely nothing would go wrong. He was just being too sensitive. Yes, definitely too sensitive. 2 days later, Faye visited the obstetrics department again to check on the baby's condition. Thankfully, everything was normal. Last time, the doctor had warned her that given her physical condition, an abortion wasn't recommended. This might be her only child ever. Well, she would cherish this little angel, but it would be hers alone. She sat on a hospital bench, gently stroking her still flat stomach. Not far away, Lily clung to James like a boneless creature as they exited the obstetrics department. Perhaps because she wore a mask and hat, neither of them recognized her. Lily looked exhausted. I thought I was pregnant. I was so excited, but it turned out to be a false alarm. What exactly is a pseudocyesis? I even had morning sickness." Seeing James trying to suppress his laughter, Lily grew even more irritated, repeatedly punching his chest with her small fists. From Faye's perspective, it truly was a beautiful picture of her teasing and him laughing if only the man weren't her husband. She lowered her eyelids and shook her head as she heard him say, "It must be because your husband hasn't been trying hard enough." He suddenly lifted the woman in his arms, whispering huskily in Lily's ear, "Come on, let's go home and make a baby." "You're awful," Lily's coquettish laughter echoed down the corridor. She lowered her head and curved her lips slightly. For years, she had been focused on her career with no plans for children. James would say he wasn't in a hurry, but apparently his heart felt differently. Well, before leaving, she would give him 2 major gifts. This little angel had arrived unexpectedly, but every angel deserved to live in a healthy, loving family. If the baby's home could only maintain a facade of affection, perhaps it was better not to stay. After returning to the villa, Faye was consulting a professional nutritionist about proper diet during pregnancy. A livestream notification from Lily suddenly popped up. Since the proposal livestream, Lily had gained a significant following, becoming a well-known internet celebrity. As soon as she started broadcasting, her viewer count soared to 100,000. This broadcast was from her home. Lily wore a revealing tube top paired with ripped jeans and knee-high boots, strutting for the camera. She began with her signature sultry smile, swaying her hips as she interacted with her fans. "Babies, don't you think my runway walk rivals professional models?" Receiving validation from her viewers, Lily smiled with satisfaction. One comment caught her attention. "There's folic acid on your table. Are you expecting?" A blush spread across Lily's face. "Stop it, you have such sharp eyes. We're trying for a baby." "I've been using a secret weapon lately. I believe we'll have good news soon." Fans were curious about this secret weapon. "I've been doing those intimate rejuvenation treatments. Your sister-in-law is domineering and wild. Every time he leaves me with an aching waist and wobbly legs." Fans squealed, joking that this was too explicit for them. "Still badmouthing me, James's voice came through. The man's voice was rich with a seductive edge, thrilling the livestream viewers who begged for brother-in-law to appear on camera. "Not a chance, he's for my eyes only." "So possessive, what part of you haven't I seen? Still haven't had enough." The livestream atmosphere grew even more lively, with viewers exclaiming this wasn't a broadcast for children, it was too stimulating. Hearing his teasing, Lily threw him a flirtatious glance and went to playfully hit the man off camera, only to be forcefully pulled into his embrace. James's long, distinctive hands appeared in the frame, exciting viewers who called them God tier. Amid countless praising comments, one stood out. "That hand looks familiar, and the voice sounds familiar too. Can't remember where I've heard it before." This comment was quickly buried under new ones. Lily was led out of the camera frame, but their suggestive intermingled sounds remained audible. The man's sexy, deep breathing, "Baby, wearing a thong? You're playing with fire." Viewers went wild, screaming that there was nothing family members couldn't see. When Faye saw Lily again, her eyes were seductive, her lips red and moist, everything was obvious. Lily panted teasingly, "Babies, I'm ending the stream for today. Your brother-in-law is consumed by desire." Faye watched the entire live stream with a blank expression, recording it for evidence. These scenes now seemed like minor skirmishes to her, barely causing a ripple in her heart. 3 hours later, Lily sent new photos. A pair of man's large hands held a woman's snow-white, round toes, applying bright red nail polish. Visually, it was indeed pleasing to the eye. "Hubby says my feet look best with red. The extreme contrast of pure white and red is artistic. Every time I tease him with my toes, he can't resist. Old Lady Bennett, hubby told me your toes are deformed from high heels. He has zero desire for them. Did you know?" He has a serious foot fetish. After reading Lily's messages, Faye momentarily thought this woman was ignorant and pitiful. She gripped her phone tightly, her knuckles turning white, refusing to let go. Perhaps Lily thought this display of intimacy would cause Faye pain and distress. She admitted it worked initially, but beyond the grief came clarity. Each of Lily's provocations refreshed her understanding of James. She had thought he was merely distracted by a wild flower, but now she saw she had never truly known this man's essence. Love is pure, it encompasses acceptance and understanding, not using a loved one's pain as flirtatious fodder with another woman. These deformed feet had won her runway glory. They were never meant to be tools to please men. She wasn't a woman who existed to satisfy a man's fetishes. "James, you're far worse than I imagined." After watching Lily's afternoon livestream, she assumed James would make excuses not to come home tonight. Surprisingly, he returned before 9. Perhaps guided by male intuition, he had subconsciously refused Lily's invitation to stay over. He'd been spending too little time with Faye lately. He smiled shyly, holding a bouquet of her favorite sunflowers, easily embracing the tall woman. The moment their eyes met, Faye seemed transported back in time, seeing the 19-year-old boy who treasured her above all else. During James's courtship years, she had rejected the roses he sent multiple times. Then one day, he surprised her with sunflowers. She had been stunned. She never cared for expensive, showy roses, preferring those sun-seeking, vibrant flowers full of wildness and life. He had said, "I noticed. Among all the bouquets backstage, your gaze lingered a few seconds longer on the sunflowers. When I look around, I see only you. The meaning of sunflowers matches my intentions." Her heart had been touched by a man who noticed such a small detail, and she accepted his flowers for the first time. She still remembered his sigh of relief, his mumbled words. "I knew you weren't rejecting me because you disliked me. I just wasn't giving you the right flowers." His tongue-twisting self-talk had made her laugh, but that pure-hearted boy was long gone. As she pressed against his chest, she smelled the familiar citrus fragrance, a fresh, slightly tangy scent from her usual Nile garden perfume. Her pupils trembled, a mocking smile forming on her lips. If not for Lily, she might never have discovered this man's betrayal. Due to her pregnancy, she hadn't been wearing perfume. This scent could only have come from another woman. He hid it well. After spending half a day with Lily, his body carried no other scents, indicating he had given Lily her same perfume. Let it be, then. If he was trying so hard to cover up, she would play along with this charade of marital bliss. Faye calmly announced, "I'm pregnant." James's eyes lit up with excitement. "Really? Honey?" His smile broadened as he suddenly jumped up, all his usual poise gone. Like an enthusiastic boy, he was completely immersed in the joy of first-time fatherhood. His excitement and joy seemed genuine. He would likely be a good father who loved children. Yet this same man had also been trying to create life with another woman. Soon, he would likely have other children. She lifted her eyelids slightly to conceal the sourness in her heart. Relying on her understanding of James's character, she produced 2 pre-prepared documents, divorce papers and a custody waiver. Faye turned directly to the signature page, gazing at him lovingly. "Darling, I've spotted 2 promising new brands with great potential. Will you help me acquire them?" In this moment of joy, he naturally didn't suspect her ulterior motives and resolutely signed his name on both documents. "Honey, that's nothing. Even if you wanted the stars from the sky, your husband would buy them for you. For your birthday, I'm planning to buy you a small island." While speaking enthusiastically, his phone rang persistently. Seeing the caller ID, he frowned and hung up. The caller seemed determined, redialing repeatedly. Having achieved her goal, she no longer needed to maintain the charade with James, pretending to be joyful, expecting parents. In fact, she felt somewhat relieved when Lily called otherwise. She wasn't sure how to continue the act. Faye gently tugged at his sleeve, softly encouraging, "Take the call. It might be important." Only then did he reluctantly move to a corner of the living room to answer. His voice was icy. "What is it?" From the other end came loud music and a woman's drunken, tearful voice. "Honey, someone drugged me at the club. I feel so hot all over. Come save me, men keep grabbing at me. I'm dizzy. So scared." Whatever the caller said next clearly rattled James, whose eyes showed panic as sweat beaded on his forehead. "Honey, I have an emergency. I need to go." With those words, he left without looking back. She stood at the door watching him drive away until his car disappeared into the night. Faye's phone displayed a new message. "Old Lady Bennett, so what if he came home? I just had to cry a little, and he came running to me. Even with all this, you're still clinging to the empty title of Mrs. Guthrie. What's the point? Seeing your fans still shipping you too makes me laugh so hard. If I were you, I'd be too ashamed to show my face." Faye turned off her phone. Her eyes were hidden in the darkness, her emotions unreadable. James didn't return all night, nor did he show any signs of coming back in the following days. In the past, she would have called immediately, concerned about what had happened, but now she did nothing and he didn't seem to notice her unusual behavior. She curved her lips mockingly. Lily would keep her updated on James's situation anyway. No need for her to call. He probably had a beauty in his arms and had lost all track of time. It would end soon. She unconsciously fingered her wedding ring. She had one last thing to do. She sent James a message. "James, come with me to Goodwood one more time." Returning to this fairytale town where she and James had held their wedding felt right. Their marriage had begun here, it should end here too. Inside the church, perhaps triggered by the familiar surroundings, her dry eyes welled up again. A pair of hands carefully wiped her tears, draping a shawl over her shoulders. "Honey, why are you crying?" This time she didn't resist or recoil, submissively accepting his kindness and resting her head against his chest. "James, do you remember the vows you made here?" Recalling their wedding scene, his eyes softened as he recounted various details from their ceremony. "I'll never forget that day for as long as I live. I swore I would make you happy for a lifetime, with only you in my heart, forever and ever." He spoke with such sincerity that Faye lifted her eyelids slightly, a sarcastic smile forming. "And if you didn't keep that promise?" After a moment of silence, he answered quietly, "I would lose what I love most. Don't worry, honey, that day will never come. I love only you. I wouldn't even look twice at another woman." Listening to his confident declarations, she felt nothing. Men's words were as unreliable as a devil's promises, yet he spoke as if it were absolute truth. Though he had wounded her deeply, none of life's hardships or misfortunes compared to the pain he had inflicted, she remained unmoved. Their fingers intertwined as they walked along a country lane, enjoying this rare, peaceful moment. James's phone buzzed, shattering the brief tranquility. Irritated, he opened the notification and saw photos from Lily. His breathing quickened. Simultaneously, she received a message from Lily. "Want to bet? One photo from me, and he'll leave immediately." Turning off her phone, she clearly sensed his attention had shifted. She smiled warmly, understanding. "Something you need to handle?" James hesitated, then shook his head. Something inside told him he shouldn't leave Faye right now. She provided him with an excuse. "Is it a new document from the company? Go back to the hotel and deal with it. I'll just wander around. Remember to pick me up later." James felt uneasy. He didn't want to go, instinctively feeling that if he left, she would disappear. But her eyes were full of tenderness as she caressed her still flat stomach, easing his anxiety. He thought to himself just a little while wouldn't matter. Faye was carrying his child. Where could she go? As he prepared to leave, she called after him, "Don't forget the path we took to get here." He turned back, smiling. "How could I forget my little direction-challenged wife?" Watching him walk away, she smiled tragically, tears flooding down. Did he truly remember the path they took at 19? Moments later, a man approached her. "Miss Bennett, all your domestic information has been cancelled. Here are your new identity documents. Faye Bennett no longer exists in this world. You can board the ship to Finland at the harbor." Her phone screen lit up again with another message from Lily. "Old Lady Bennett, I just sent a photo of myself in underwear, and hubby abandoned you to come find me at the hotel. How is my charm just so irresistible? Take the hint and exit our happy life already." This wasn't Lily's first provocation, but it was the first time Faye replied. "Congratulations, you got what you wanted." She looked up at the man before her and handed him the phone. "Please mail this phone and letter back to the mainland. Make sure James Guthrie signs for it personally." She had never been a woman who allowed herself to be bullied. Lily would pay for the humiliation and pain she had caused, and James would face the consequences. She and the baby would leave him forever. Today was their farewell. She would make him eternally regret trading a moment's pleasure for losing his wife and child. Having given all her instructions, she boarded the ferry. On deck, as she removed her ruby wedding ring, she suddenly recalled Lily's words about how the extreme contrast of red and white was art. She curved her lips slightly. Perhaps James's preferences had never changed, but that was no longer her concern. The ferry passed through the narrow strait, no longer in shadow but flooded with sunlight. In the hotel room, James gripped Lily's chin, contemplating whether to replace this disobedient woman. With a dark expression, he stared at Lily. "Didn't I tell you not to contact me in Norway?" Seeing his demeanor, Lily showed no fear. She shrugged her shoulders, causing the loose bathrobe to fall to the floor. Revealing a red, sexy bikini underneath, she moved his hand to her voluptuous chest, pressing her body against his. Her voice was tender, I'm sorry, I just missed you so much. Just this once, forgive me, it won't happen again. Looking up and seeing his eyes darkening, Lily teasingly licked the man's bobbing Adam's apple, successfully being carried to the large bed. Everything proceeded naturally. With James's muffled groan, he finished his passionate entanglement with Lily. For some reason, he felt an inexplicable panic. Checking the time, he showered quickly and prepared to leave. He had already delayed for over an hour. Faye must be waiting anxiously. Thinking of Faye now carrying their child, his heart softened completely, bringing an involuntary smile to his lips. Lately, he'd been so busy entertaining Lily that he'd somewhat neglected his wife. Pregnant women were said to be especially sensitive. He didn't want to upset her. For the upcoming period, he planned to devote himself entirely to touring Norway with her. After all, Lily was merely a diversion. How could she compare to his wife? Seeing his eagerness, Lily knew he was going to find Faye. She raised her slender white legs, wrapping them around his body. "Hubby, don't go. I'm all alone in Norway, a complete stranger here. You're all I have. Stay with me, please." But seeing the man's dark eyes and gradually furrowing brow, Lily wisely closed her mouth, obediently kissed his cheek, and reluctantly let him leave. When James drove back, he couldn't find Faye anywhere. He assumed she was angry, playing hide and seek to punish him. Smiling, he texted her, "Honey, I'm sorry I'm late. It's okay to be upset, but don't hide where I can't find you. Your husband is worried." But the sent message received no response, and his calls went unanswered. He finally began to panic. He started calling her name where they had parted, but only the lonely wind answered him. A thought struck him like lightning: she had left, abandoning him. He quickly dismissed this idea. She was in a foreign place, carrying his child. How could she possibly leave him? She must be testing him. That had to be it. Forcing himself to calm down, he anxiously asked passing strangers if they had seen her. But people only shook their heads in confusion. Cold sweat broke out on his back as he collapsed by the roadside. His mouth twisted into a smile worse than crying. "Faye, please stop scaring me. Your husband admits he was wrong. Beat me, punish me, anything, but don't torture me like this." Suddenly, a message from Faye arrived. "I went back to the mainland first." Seeing this, James finally relaxed. Faye had just returned home in a huff. She hadn't abandoned him. He had indeed gone too far this time. He needed to return immediately to comfort her. James took the earliest flight back. As soon as he landed, he rushed home. But there was still no sign of Faye. He asked the housekeeper, "Has my wife returned?" "No, sir." The housekeeper seemed confused. "Mr. Guthrie, hasn't Mrs. Guthrie been with you all along?" He irritably waved her away, indicating he understood. Had Faye still not calmed down? He loosened his tie and entered the bedroom, intending to call her friends to discover her whereabouts. But a casual glance made his phone drop to the floor. Was Faye's room always like this? No, something was wrong. Where were the jewelry and accessories he'd given her? Why was the walk-in closet so empty? He accidentally knocked over a photo album, but when it fell open, it was empty. Where had all their photos gone? That uneasy thought returned with greater intensity. With a grave expression, he called his secretary. "Within 1 hour, I want a complete record of my wife's movements for the past month. Investigate where she's been, any unusual activity, everything." After hanging up, he pinched the bridge of his nose, deep in thought. Where had he slipped up? He had been so careful. Could Faye really have discovered his affair? His suspicions were soon confirmed when the television began playing their joint reality show. The camera captured Faye's moist eyes as she looked at him. He tried to remember what he had been doing at that moment. His pupils shook violently. He had been exchanging suggestive messages with Lily, even spending that night with her. The more he recalled, the clearer the details became. That day when she first arrived at the recording studio, her eyes were already red. James slumped onto the carpet in disbelief. How could this happen? Had she already discovered something suspicious then? Yet she had remained silent, and now she had decisively left with their unborn child. How could she be so heartless? His secretary provided surveillance footage of Faye's recent activities. One clip from outside, the obstetrics department, made his hand holding the phone tremble uncontrollably. Was that woman sitting on the bench his Faye? Then his flirtatious conversation with Lily. Had she heard everything? She had been carrying their child in her womb. How much pain must her heart have felt? He felt dizzy, his heart constricting painfully, making it difficult to breathe. How could this happen? The housekeeper's voice interrupted. Sir, you have an international express delivery. He opened it in a daze, a phone and a letter. Upon opening the envelope, his eyes widened. This was Faye's handwriting. James, I'm gone. The phone's messages contain the answers you seek. There's a gift for you in the bedside drawer. Following the letter's instructions, he opened the drawer. The contents struck him like a thunderbolt. His usually refined face contorted with shock. How could she divorce him and surrender custody of their child? Faye's phone buzzed, and seeing the familiar avatar, his vision darkened again. Lily had sent more taunting messages. Old Lady Bennet, have you no shame? You said you'd give me what I wanted. Why are you still clinging to my husband? Do I need to call him away from you before you'll admit defeat? His fingers trembled as he scrolled through the screen. The phone contained nothing but explicit, lustful videos and Lily's provocations. The earliest message appeared 2 months ago. He stared at Lily's messages in disbelief, a bloodthirsty smile spreading across his refined face. So it was you behind all this. Lily, how dare you? Meanwhile, Faye's scheduled divorce announcement was punctually published on social media. It essentially stated that she and James had separated due to external factors, and she would retire from public life, never to return. It immediately became a trending topic. James publicly worked to remove the trending topic, issuing a statement claiming his wife's account had been hacked and that the published statement was false. Their relationship was fine. Privately, he was using every means to locate Faye. But no matter how hard he searched, she seemed to have vanished into thin air. His people could only trace her disappearance to Norway, with no record of her boarding a flight. In this vast world, finding her was like searching for a needle in a haystack. The thought of her decisive departure crushed James's heart. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol at home, numbing his nerves with liquor. This way, he wouldn't constantly think about her abandoning him, and his heart wouldn't ache so terribly. James became irritable and quick-tempered, completely losing his former refined demeanor. The household staff walked on eggshells, fearful of inadvertently angering him. While drinking himself into a stupor, his phone buzzed with a message from Lily. Hubby, would you like me in a sailor outfit? He curved his lips in a cold smile, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Busy as he was, he had almost forgotten the main culprit, but it wasn't too late. Lily opened her door, but instead of passionate lovemaking, she was seized by the throat. Only when her face turned purple and she nearly suffocated did the large hand finally release her. Her pupils trembled as she coughed violently, unable to comprehend what had provoked the man. When she tried using her usual seductive tricks on James, he pushed her away, knocking her to the floor. Lily's face filled with panic, but she still forced a pleasing smile. Darling, what's wrong? James's gaze was dark and vicious as he approached her step by step, his voice chilling her to the bone. What's wrong? When I agreed to this arrangement, I told you that being a kept woman requires a kept woman's attitude. How dare you send those things to her? Every word James squeezed through his teeth sounded like he wanted to devour her alive. Lily's face paled, her usual arrogance completely gone. She realized her secret behind-the-scenes manipulations had been exposed. But she could only continue feigning ignorance, crawling to the man's feet, trying to garner a hint of affection. Hubby, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't be like this, you're scaring me. He knelt on one knee, pulled out Faye's phone, and found their conversation history. His tone was ice cold. Perhaps you remember these. Lily's pupils contracted. She hadn't expected Faye's phone to end up in James's hands, exposing everything she had done. Now she was truly afraid, even her teeth chattering. She remembered James's words: if she wanted to be with him, she had to remain discreetly in the background. That had been her initial intention, but as he repeatedly made exceptions for her, doing so many romantic things, the love and tenderness in his eyes made her fall completely. She truly fell in love with the man before her. That's why she used these underhanded tactics to drive Faye away, leading to her repeated provocations. She clutched at his pants leg, crying pitifully, James, I just loved you too much. I only wanted you to belong to me alone. Love is selfish, is that so wrong? James remained unmoved, increasingly disgusted by the woman before him. He coldly observed the alluring woman, uttering contemptuous words. You, Worthy of loving me? I only want Faye's love. From beginning to end, we were just a transaction. Lily, you overstepped. She listened in shock, her nose stinging and eyes swelling. Glaring at him with reddened eyes, she demanded, "Is my love cheap? How am I unworthy of loving you?" He raised an eyebrow, mocking her. "Because from the moment you approached me at that banquet, spilling wine all over me, I knew exactly what kind of woman you were. A pretty face with no brains. It was always a transaction of money for sex. I indulged you because you seemed obedient. I never expected you to be both stupid and vicious, driving away my Faye. You forced her to leave, pregnant with my child." He gripped her chin, his eyes burning with hatred. "I warned you never to touch my family. Why did you cross my bottom line?" Lily clutched his collar tightly. "Because I love you, I was jealous that she could effortlessly win your heart." She sobbed. "Love requires tactics. I only did what any woman crazy in love would do. It was you who repeatedly abandoned Faye for me, you who proposed to me, giving me hope. If not for your repeated indulgence, your tenderness and care making me believe you loved me too, how would I have done those things? I just wanted to be with you officially. What's wrong with that?" At this point, Lily seemed to have gone mad, screaming hysterically. He caressed the delicate skin of her neck, repulsed enough to strangle her. "You disgust me. Since you can't understand human language, maybe a mental hospital will cure you." Fear flashed in Lily's eyes as she shook her head tearfully. "No, you can't do this to me. I might already be carrying your child." Yes, after so many nights of passion without protection, she might already be pregnant. James raised an eyebrow, stood up and scoffed. "Child, what fantasy are you living in? While you were getting those beauty treatments, I arranged for you to receive birth control injections. Why else would I not use protection? Did you really think I wanted children with you? I felt sorry for you and played along with your baby talk. I can't believe you took it seriously." Now Lily truly collapsed. So in James's eyes, she was just a plaything to be toyed with at will. "What are you still doing at the door? Take her away to the mental hospital." James instructed the bodyguards waiting outside, his eyes full of dark viciousness. Receiving their boss's orders, the guards quickly moved, dragging Lily from the ground. Lily screamed in terror, desperately clinging to the doorframe. "No, James, you can't do this to me." But the man who had shared her bed showed none of his former tenderness. Now he resembled a demon from hell, seemingly wishing for her immediate death. She couldn't accept it. She had no place whatsoever in his heart, and she hated his ruthlessness. With bulging eyes, she screamed, "James, you betrayed Faye's true love, and you betrayed my true love. You're destined never to be loved in this life." James gave her one final look of disgust, instructing the bodyguard, "Knock her out. I don't want to hear her speak anymore." Time passed day by day, with James finding no leads about Faye. Negative news about him appeared online. Fans who followed Lily were also shipping him with Faye, and something felt increasingly wrong. It seemed both brother-in-laws were the same person, especially when a fan recorded the segment of Lily's proposal livestream showing the man's hand details identical to James's. Combined with Faye's recent statement, netizens quickly uncovered the truth, confirming James as the ultimate scumbag. He suddenly found himself in a whirlpool of public opinion, subjected to widespread condemnation. Despite his repeated denials and attempts to suppress the news, the public showed no signs of letting him off. Having smelled a viral story, many internet celebrities and paparazzi treated him like a cash cow, camping outside his compound for live streams. Now everyone, young and old, knew about him. After staking out for weeks without seeing Faye, they concluded the divorce was real. Fed up, he simply shut himself in. James's carefully cultivated, good man, image collapsed overnight. Many business partners, while admiring his talent, had to cancel collaborations due to the cheating scandal, concerned about their corporate image. Fortunately, he had never participated in his family's business operations or revealed his identity, so it didn't affect the family enterprise. Meanwhile, in Northern Europe, Faye was browsing through a parenting guide, completely unaware of his situation. Relying on her own savings and the money from selling her mainland assets, she was living quite comfortably in Finland. The lifestyle of 6 months of midnight sun and 6 months of polar night initially challenged her, but people adapt just as she had adapted after leaving James. Now she could live well on her own. She became a fashion designer. With her background in the fashion industry, she had a unique eye, always designing creative pieces. Gaining recognition from some local boutique brands, her life became quite fulfilling. One day, while taking her usual street-side stroll, she unexpectedly ran into Ethan Sue. He maintained his handsome appearance, wearing the same cold expression she remembered from their last meeting. "Faye!" She wanted to pretend not to recognize him, but the road was slippery, and she nearly fell. With lightning reflexes, he caught her in his arms. Taking a deep breath, she realized she had missed her best chance to avoid him. "Thanks, Ethan, but please let go of me." She struggled against him, but his grip only tightened. Looking down at her porcelain-like face, he chose to conceal the surging emotions in his heart and slowly released her. He reminded himself not to rush after all. He had waited so many years. Faye didn't know what had come over her. Meeting him felt like encountering an old rival. She had always been helpless around him. After so many years, she still hadn't improved. She attributed it to the man's overwhelming presence. Perhaps that's why she had chosen someone as gentle and refined as James. Thinking of him again brought a sense of desolation. Ethan's appearance disrupted her peaceful life. He always managed to casually appear in her field of vision. She wasn't a fool, she knew exactly what he wanted. But he was too cunning, neither showing his hand nor revealing his intentions, simply providing just the right amount of help in this foreign land. Finally, one day, she ran into him again at a flower shop and couldn't hold back anymore. "Ethan, what exactly do you want? You know I'm pregnant, right?" "Yes, and I also know you're divorced." His eyebrows remained cold as his gaze fell on her. "So, abort it?" He said this as casually as commenting on the weather. Sometimes Faye had to admit he could leave her speechless with a single sentence. But she wasn't 18 anymore, without the arrogance of her youth. She replied calmly, "The doctor said this might be the only child I'll ever have." She lowered her eyes, her hands tightening around the sunflower bouquet. Then she heard his indifferent response, "Well, thank God I'm going to have a child." "You?" She was stunned again, feeling blood rushing to her face, making it hot and flushed. "You're so confident I haven't agreed to anything." The corner of his mouth lifted in a playful smile. "The outcome will be the same. I advise you to stop struggling early." Faye wasn't sure if it was her imagination, but Ethan's cold eyes seemed to hold more warmth than before. "Why else would I leave my comfortable life back home and request a transfer from headquarters to come here?" Under his intense gaze, she was the first to look away, her heart racing uncontrollably. She wanted to ask where his confidence came from, but ultimately said nothing. Since their meeting at the flower shop, they had cleared the air. Ethan dropped all pretense, buying the villa next to hers and becoming her neighbor. Though he never explicitly stated it, Faye understood intuitively. Sometimes it wasn't about what a man said, but what he did. In the following days, he accompanied her to prenatal checkups, studied parenting knowledge, and even proactively prepared meals for pregnant women. The obstetricians all assumed he was her husband. She occasionally glimpsed his phone, discovering he was researching postpartum care, which inevitably touched her heart. Still, she dared not take a step forward, afraid he would regret it. The current arrangement felt just right. At 5 in the morning, her alarm clock rang punctually. Drowsy-eyed, she changed clothes and walked to the door. As agreed, Ethan was waiting precisely on time at her doorstep. 2 days earlier, they had arranged to watch whales today. For better viewing, Ethan chartered a small boat. Passing through the harbor into open water, the sea was clear as a mirror. The sea breeze was gentler than expected. As the sun rose and the sea mist dispersed, the water sparkled with dancing light. They arrived at a whale gathering spot. The whales' tails swayed as they swam gently around the boat. Watching a whale and its calf swimming so freely softened her heart. She couldn't help exclaiming, "I feel like I've wasted the first decades of my life." Faye turned to look at Ethan, only to realize he had been silently watching her all along. She joked, "Actually, when you invited me, I didn't want to come at all. Getting up so early, with the sea so cold, what a suffering." But seeing it in person created a wondrous feeling inside her. Ethan's face remained impassive, though his eyes visibly softened. Life itself has no meaning. Living in the present is what matters. She curved her lips yes, living in the present was what mattered. She knew Ethan was hinting at her, suggesting she forget past unpleasantness. People must move forward. She hadn't thought of James for a long time. When she first arrived in Finland, she still kept tabs on some mainland news. She had seen her own divorce announcement on social media, quickly clarified by James. Though the reason for the divorce wasn't explicitly stated, the truth couldn't be hidden. James's affair was soon exposed. The scandal significantly impacted his career. This privileged man found paparazzi live-streaming outside his door, losing face completely. He became a recluse, with rumors suggesting he had developed depression and moved abroad. Initially, fans who had shipped Lily were disgusted like they'd swallowed dead flies. After a video emerged of her at the obstetrics department claiming she would bear James's child, netizens cursed her as a knowing mistress, a despicable woman. Yet she never responded, seemingly vanishing completely from the internet. Faye had skimmed these news items as if reading irrelevant gossip before quickly moving on. These people and events seemed unconnected to her, like strangers. The bone-deep pain they once caused had become a distant yesterday. She didn't care anymore. Stroking her pregnant belly, she appreciated how well-behaved her baby had been, never causing trouble during pregnancy. The man silently watching her had eyes so soft they nearly melted into spring water. Time flew, and another year passed. Faye gave birth to a lovely boy. Ethan stood beside her in the hospital room. When the nurse placed the baby in his arms, he froze like a plaster statue. "He's really ugly, isn't he? Not fully evolved, looks like a monkey. And his skin is all wrinkled. Are you sure they didn't bring the wrong baby?" This was his first impression of the baby. Watching him frown in deep thought while verbally criticizing, but handling the child with such gentleness and care made her smile. He was so contradictory. Just like years ago, Ethan clearly liked her too, yet he insisted she was the one who liked him. As a new mother, her eyes shone with unprecedented tenderness. "Bring him here, let me see." Looking at the baby's wrinkled little face, she smiled, finding him beautiful in every way. "Have you thought of a name?" Ethan asked softly. "Andy. Let's call him Andy." Initially, she kept scrolling through baby videos. Gradually, her social media began showing children with various illnesses needing treatment. She started to worry, what if her baby had a birthmark on his face? What if he wasn't fully formed? What if he wasn't healthy? Thankfully, everything went smoothly. The baby was healthy, and she asked for nothing more than his well-being. When Andy was 3 months old, he experienced his first health scare. After dinner, she had drunk almond milk, and afterward, Andy developed an allergic reaction while breastfeeding, resulting in a high fever. Sitting by the hospital bed, she watched that tiny bundle with an IV needle in his head, whimpering in pain. Her heart felt like it was being torn apart. The doctor's words echoed, "Where is the child's father? It's the middle of the night, you can't manage alone. It's not safe to go home either. Call the baby's dad right away." The baby's father? Her heart filled with desolation. She had abandoned Andy's father. After hesitating, she dialed Ethan's number. He answered quickly, and after learning the situation, drove over immediately, maintaining an open phone line the entire way. He had sensed her fear. "Faye, listen to me. I know you're panicking right now, but stay calm until I get from the office to the hospital. You're a mother now. Andy needs you." Ethan arrived swiftly, consulted with the doctor, and learned that, thankfully, the baby would be fine. However, Andy would have to endure the physical discomfort himself. Perhaps because of the baby's sudden illness, Ethan rarely saw Faye so vulnerable. In his mind, she had always been proud, confident, and brave. Seeing her red-rimmed eyes and constant tears, her exhausted appearance, his heart ached. He took the initiative to sit beside her, letting her head rest on his shoulder. Not knowing how to comfort her, he simply allowed her to release her emotions. "Don't cry anymore. This isn't your fault." Her voice was hoarse. "I'm an orphan, as you know. More than anyone, I wanted Andy to have a complete family, but I never imagined I couldn't even guarantee his health. I regret it so much. I'm not fit to be a mother." "Calm down. This is just an accident," Ethan frowned, his voice growing stern. "Growing up, all sorts of accidents happen. If you can't handle this, where's the courage you had to give birth to him alone? You're just an ordinary woman. Don't burden yourself so heavily. Nurturing life alone is already remarkable. Try leaning on me, okay?" Ethan forced Faye to look into his eyes, emphasizing each word. "You will be a good mother. Trust me, I will always be with you and Andy." He tenderly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. "Be good now, get some sleep. You'll need energy to care for this energetic little guy tomorrow." He used a gentle voice to soothe the crying Andy. Under his protection, Faye gradually emerged from her emotional breakdown, finding stability as if she had found an anchor. Exhausted, she drifted to sleep as Ethan kept vigil over mother and son all night. By noon the next day, Andy's fever had completely subsided. Ethan drove them home, sitting on the couch and continuing to advise her. "Next time something happens, contact me immediately." Noting the bloodshot eyes beneath his words, she felt guilty and lowered her head. The man suddenly fell silent. Looking up, she saw that Ethan had fallen asleep. Rather than wake him, she unconsciously brought Andy close to his side. She felt secure having him nearby. She reached out to brush his stray hair to the sides, studying his seemingly exhausted face. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and a day's stubble had grown though disheveled. She found him more handsome than ever. After this incident, their relationship reached a new breakthrough. Faye no longer resisted as before, actively seeking his help when needed. Ethan also began sharing his own affairs, occasionally lingering at her home, resembling a happy quarreling couple. While attempting to bake bread at home, she invited Ethan to be her primary guinea pig. After tearing off a bite of the dry bread, he refused a second taste, pushing it far away. Then he picked up Andy and made faces at him. The baby's clear, bright eyes blinked as he watched the man holding him make various strange expressions, giggling in delight. "By the way, I'm returning to the mainland next week." Hearing this, Faye knew it meant at least a period of separation. Her heart filled with an indescribable sensation. "Will you come back after going home?" Before she knew it, she had voiced her true feelings aloud. She was slightly annoyed at herself for asking such a brainless question. What was their relationship that she would interfere in his life this way? A light flashed in his eyes as he teased. "Of course I'll return. My wife and child are in Finland, how could I not come back?" She glared at him and even gave him a punch, though it was so light it felt like a feather gliding across his skin. His heart fluttered in response. Ethan placed Andy in his crib, then gently embraced Faye from behind. The woman momentarily stiffened but didn't resist, silently accepting the hug. He whispered in her ear, "Wait for me to return. It won't take a week. Once I finish the business negotiations at home, I'll come keep you and Andy company." The usually stern man's eyebrows softened as he joked, "Don't think about other men while I'm not by your side." Who could she think about? James? She hadn't checked on his news for so long that he had become distant to her. They were now completely unrelated individuals. She gritted her teeth. "What nonsense are you spouting? I'll tear your mouth off." "Oh no," supermodel turned fury. Faye. After returning to the mainland and adjusting to the time difference for a day, Ethan began his busy work schedule. Today was his contract signing date with Ruby Guthrie. At the Guthrie Group, he once again met this decisive business queen. She clearly seemed distracted. Thinking of the mess her brother had created, she wished she could send him back for a complete do-over. In the Guthrie family villa, Lily trembled in James's bedroom, terrified he might suddenly go berserk. Her voice shook. "James, eat something please. You haven't eaten all day. Eat something before continuing with your wood carving, okay?" But the man remained obstinate, completely ignoring her. After being committed to the mental institution, she thought she would never get out. To her surprise, within 2 days, she met a cold, ruthless female CEO, James's elder sister. Ruby had no interest in the sordid affair between her and her brother, but she needed to prevent anything that might cause a corporate crisis. What James had done was essentially false imprisonment. If competitors discovered and reported it, would the family produce a convict in this generation? Thus, Lily was fortunately rescued by Ruby. She never wanted to return to that place, filled with unstable people whose behaviors she couldn't comprehend. She only knew that staying there much longer would transform her into one of them. Understanding the Guthrie family's far-reaching influence, she didn't dare play any tricks. Such tactics, in the eyes of the storm-weathered Ruby, were simply child's play. Ruby had saved her and offered lifelong support while also making demands: care for her brother and never reappear in the public eye. Lily understood that once a woman's reputation was ruined, her life was essentially over. If a powerful family was willing to support her, what more could she ask for? Ruby didn't want to hear any more negative news about James. He was her brother from the same mother, 12 years her junior. Having watched him grow up, James was like a child to her. Since Lily had successfully seduced James, Ruby believed she must have special qualities. Ruby hoped she could make James fall in love with her and forget Faye. That cold woman had only said James was ill, not that he suffered from bipolar disorder. Now he seemed increasingly unhinged. Lily feared him now. What if he suddenly attempted suicide again while she was present? With all her explanations, Ruby would still blame her for not being useful enough. Ethan noticed Ruby's distracted mood and tentatively asked, "Something on your mind?" She waved dismissively, pretending it was her monthly cycle, changing the subject. "By the way, how much longer do you plan to stay single? You're becoming a golden bachelor." He deliberately rapped his knuckles on the table. "Stop right there. I might be leaving bachelorhood soon." Ruby teased, "Didn't you say you'd only ever love your first love? Now you've moved on after all." Tusk. Ethan's eyebrows twitched slightly. Seeing his expression, she exclaimed, "Don't tell me you're reconciling with your first love." A male third party succeeding, Ethan frowned. Women's gossip truly knew no age limits. "But you really were pitiful back then. Suddenly dragged to Africa by your grandfather for training, completely out of contact. The girl thought you'd used and abandoned her. By the time she married, you reappeared. How could one word, miserable, encapsulate it? Your eyes lost their light like a walking corpse." He didn't want to hear her teasing anymore and deliberately changed the subject. "What about James? Haven't heard news of him in ages." At the mention of James, the woman's upturned lips pressed into a straight line. "Going crazy at home. Since Faye left, he's been through public backlash and become increasingly unstable." Ethan lowered his eyes, a dark gleam crossing them. He curved his lips slightly. If only James had known the consequences, why do it in the first place? He felt no pity for this old acquaintance. Having already lost Faye once, he would never give anyone another chance. Ruby continued, "His whole life has been smooth sailing. I suppose this incident hit him too hard. But who can he blame? If I were his wife, I'd have torn him apart." Faye was ultimately too dignified. Through chatting with Ruby, Ethan learned that James had developed bipolar disorder, alternating between depression and irritability. Given James's current state, he absolutely couldn't be seen publicly. He was essentially a wreck. Occasional wrist-cutting suicide attempts, constant demands to find Faye overseas who would dare let him go out alone in his mental state. The buzzing vibration of a phone interrupted. Ruby answered, her face turning ashen. She gritted her teeth. "How were you watching him? How did James jump from the second floor?" Ethan's eyes darkened, but he said nothing, taking a sip of tea. This man seemed determined to destroy himself. He sent Faye a message. "News about your ex-husband." Faye quickly replied with a string of quotation marks. He briefly explained the situation. After a moment of silence, Faye responded, "His affairs are none of my concern. A person who doesn't value himself won't be valued by others. Please don't mention him to me again." Ethan indifferently curved his lips. This was for the best. He had only wanted to test Faye's attitude. Seeing her so resolute, James clearly had no chance in this lifetime. He owed James nothing. They had a passing acquaintance, which was why he hadn't taken extreme measures back then, stepping in to steal a love. But now it was different. James had lost Faye by his own actions, so Ethan wouldn't feel guilty seizing this one opportunity. He was merely defending his only love. As soon as James's incident occurred, Ruby lost interest in discussing business. She hurried to the hospital. As James's former brother, Ethan naturally accompanied her. Seeing Lily kneeling in terror at the hospital, Ruby was beyond speechless. She nearly bit through her silver teeth in anger. "Get up, you unsophisticated thing. Who let you go out and get photographed by the media? Do you know what they're writing?" Ruby massaged her temples, utterly exhausted. Her brother was truly beyond saving. "I'm sorry, I was too scared." Lily sobbed silently. He suddenly heard something about a child and went berserk, opening the window and jumping straight out. "I was terrified." Lily's voice choked with sobs. Ethan gave her a glance. She looked completely worn out. Clearly, she had suffered plenty under the Guthries. Ethan had never considered himself a good person. Knowing James wasn't dead was enough. The rest was none of his business. Once this project was finalized, he would fly back to Finland. Having been apart from Faye for just days, he was already impatient to see her. But unexpectedly, he was delayed for over 2 months before returning to Finland. Faye brought the baby to meet him, giving him a genuine feeling of family. Noticing her struggling to hold Andy, he took the baby from her arms, playfully lifting him high, making Andy giggle happily. "Stop teasing him, he's almost laughing himself silly," Faye chided, lightly tapping his shoulder. They exchanged smiles, creating a heartwarming picture with the baby. A passing photographer captured the moment when he lifted Andy, catching the baby's adorable, innocent smile. Hoping to capture a family portrait, the photographer was disappointed as they walked away too quickly. The photographer posted the photo on social media, where the baby's healing smile immediately attracted a wave of mother fans. Unexpectedly, it went viral. Many fans asked the photographer where the baby was photographed, commenting on his incredible cuteness. The photographer replied accordingly. Browsing social media at the villa, old Mr. Guthrie adjusted his reading glasses upon seeing the photo. He wondered if his eyes were failing him. This baby's features were identical to his useless son's childhood appearance, as if cut from the same mold. George Guthrie called Victoria over. "Look at this. Who does this remind you of?" Victoria examined it carefully, puzzled. "This is exactly like James. Does he have an illegitimate child?" Considering this possibility, both their expressions darkened. The news eventually reached Ruby's ears. Ruby immediately suspected this was her former sister-in-law's child. Neither she nor James had mentioned the pregnancy to their parents. She feared they might be outraged at that worthless boy, while James was probably too embarrassed. His wife and child had both left him. Thinking of her brother still lying listlessly in the hospital, Ruby felt an overwhelming anger. She decided to personally tell James this news. At the villa, Ethan sat on the sofa watching educational cartoons with Andy, nearly dozing off. A phone call jolted him fully awake. Hearing the news, his face darkened to ink black. Faye noticed his grave expression and was about to speak when he approached her. "Faye, he knows about Andy's existence. A photographer captured Andy's photo at the airport. Your location probably can't be kept secret anymore." Her eyelashes trembled. Sensing Faye's anxiety, he pulled her into his embrace, gently patting her back. "It's okay, I'm here. He's injured and hospitalized now, probably can't even leave." Ethan casually downplayed James's injuries. He had inquired the jump had resulted in multiple fractures and a ruptured kidney. A cold light flashed in his eyes. If James truly came, he wouldn't fear him. He only worried she might waver. From the current situation, James clearly couldn't come. Further exertion might cost him his life. Faye remained silent. She enjoyed her current peaceful life and hadn't thought of James for a very long time. If they met again, what could happen? She had nothing to say to him. Everything that needed saying had been said the day she left. She would never cross paths with him again in this life. She lay in bed, soothing Andy to sleep. Ethan watched over mother and son, his heart filled with tenderness. In the mainland, the previously listless man lying in his hospital bed suddenly found light in his eyes. But in his current weakened physical state, he couldn't possibly leave the hospital. For Ruby, this was inconsequential. She only wanted him to have a will to live. Since the day Faye left, he had lived in excruciating pain, repeatedly asking himself, didn't she love him too? How could she be so heartless as to abandon him? They had a child together. Even with broken bones, tendons still connected them. Holed up at home, he constantly deluded himself. Only by lying in their room, surrounded by familiar scents, could he find momentary peace. It was as if she were still beside him, never having left. But waking brought a more severe breakdown. Under this mental torture, his moods alternated between excitement and depression. He allowed himself to lose control, understanding he was ill. But perhaps illness was good if she knew. Wouldn't she feel sorry for him? What if she returned to find him? The reality was she never contacted him. He existed like a walking corpse, perpetually sinking into his own world. Now, knowing she was in Finland, having given birth to his child, that dying heart revived. He had hope for life again. He would find her and their child. He would remarry her, restoring their relationship. Ruby, observing his demeanor, immediately understood his thoughts. She sighed softly. If only he had realized this sooner. James, focus on recovery first. Look at yourself barely resembling your former self. What woman wouldn't flee at the sight of you? Ruby only hoped he would regain his strength. She couldn't watch him deteriorate further. Sis, do you think she'll forgive me? Do I still have a chance? She remained silent, merely nodding. Though she understood that a woman like Faye, who refused to compromise, would never return, she couldn't say it. She had finally given him a will to live. Despite her frustration with him, they were family. With any other man, she would have simply called him a scumbag who deserved everything he got. The human heart ultimately favors its own. She consoled him softly, "Rest well. Once your body recovers, then you'll have your chance." After a few more words of advice, Ruby departed. Lying in his hospital bed, James could no longer contain himself. Tears of remorse fell as he curled into a corner of the bed, covering himself completely. "Faye, I miss you so much." His voice choked with sobs. He had destroyed the relationship with the girl he had cherished in his palms. For him, she had ended her professional career during its golden period, just to be with him forever, no longer enduring the pain of separation. Faye had truly valued their relationship, but his momentary interest in Lily had disrupted their entire lives. Lily was bold and uninhibited in bed, always arousing his blood. With her, he experienced something completely different. The feeling of freely playing and dominating. Unlike the careful nurturing with Faye, he was the controller in bed. Moreover, Lily's body was indeed enticing. He enjoyed indulging this little mistress, even proposing to please her. After all, she should understand that from the beginning of their relationship, he had said he only loved his wife. But he was also addicted to the excitement Lily brought him. He simply desired her body, nothing more. He thought he could enjoy the best of both worlds, maintaining balance between home and outside, but he overlooked Lily's greed and Faye's decisiveness. Everything fell apart. His wife disappeared with their unborn child. In a single day, he lost the woman he loved. In the small Finnish town, Faye stared helplessly at her body covered in love marks, silently cursing. Alcohol truly clouds judgment. Just last night, she and Ethan had become intimate. Rubbing her sore waist, she couldn't resist kicking the man who held her in his sleep. Recalling last night, they had enjoyed some wine while admiring the aurora, both becoming somewhat intoxicated. Her mind relaxed as she leaned against Ethan. His Adam's apple bobbed as he tentatively leaned in to kiss her soft lips. Momentarily confused, she didn't resist permitting the kiss. Afterward, the man became increasingly bold, truly unstoppable. The image of him in bed, eyes slightly narrowed like a hunting cheetah, directly gripping the nape of her neck and pinning her beneath him, flashed in her mind. Her cheeks flushed. She intended to rise without acknowledging the man in bed. But Ethan extended his long arm, catching her waist. "Enjoy and run?" Having just awakened, his voice carried an undeniable desire and hoarseness. Her ears began to burn, her heartbeat intensifying. This rogue, she pushed him away only to be pulled back into his embrace for another kiss. Starting gently, as he sensed her adaptation, Ethan's kisses grew increasingly fierce, irresistible. Their tongues intertwined, their bodies merging once more. Afterward, the man again coaxed her to sleep. Half awake, she discovered he had already risen, holding Andy and preparing formula. Suddenly, she realized her life had become inseparable from this man. Ethan returned to gently caress her cheek. "Be good, sleep a bit more." After this encounter, Ethan essentially took root in her house, a veritable master of the household, pressing her against the bed again each night. He seemed unchanged. When she first met him as a teenager, the young Ethan appeared emotionally cold. Faye's colleague had bet her that Ethan had a celibate, old bureaucrat air, emanating coldness likely inadequate. She disagreed. During a runway show, she had thrown a flirtatious glance at the man below. With just one look, she caught the flame hidden in the depths of Ethan's eyes. Far from inadequate, Faye proudly corrected her colleague backstage, only to be called into Ethan's dressing room, receiving his forceful, domineering kiss. From then on, she was entangled with this rival for a full 2 years. Embracing the man's lean yet powerful waist, her pupils trembled. She patted her cheeks. Far from inadequate, he was too much. Truly unfathomable how he balanced work and life, maintaining such energy every day, leaving her with aching waist and legs. On the weekend, she wanted to burrow under the covers for a lazy morning. But he coaxed her out, insisting on taking her king crab fishing. Boarding a ferry, she found herself brought to Hardingerfjord. Though near the Arctic Circle, it was remarkably mild and humid. The fjord's gentle slopes rippled along both shores, water vapor shrouding the landscape in romantic mist. Feeling a wondrous sensation, she asked, "Weren't we going king crab fishing?" He joked, "I'm not crazy. Andy is so small, what if he gets cold? We're going to my winery. The flowers are blooming this season, you'll love it." With that, he naturally arranged her stray hair and adjusted her collar. "Let's return to the cabin. It will be a while before we arrive." Upon reaching the estate, she had expected a vineyard, but it produced apple cider. Trees laden with delicate blossoms emitted a subtle fragrance, surrounded by butterflies and bees. She was surprised to find such a paradise near the Arctic Circle. Standing there briefly, her dress was infused with the sweet scent. Andy stared with round, bright eyes, utterly captivated, babbling happily, clearly delighted. She tugged at Ethan's sleeve, asking, "When did you acquire this estate?" The man's smile turned somewhat desolate as he slowly replied, "After your marriage. I thought I'd missed my chance forever. Later, I developed an alcohol addiction. I was looking for a place to drink my life away. The cider here has a unique flavor. Initially bought for solitary distraction, I planned to live here as an old man. That would have been my life. Now it's different. You've returned to me." In that moment, a mixture of bitter and sweet feelings flooded her heart. Her voice trembling, she gently linked her arm with his. "I'll be here from now on." He bent to kiss her smooth forehead. "An old lady will accompany me then?" His quip made her laugh despite herself. She failed to notice that he had slipped a ring onto her finger. "Caught by me now, no escaping anymore." The man's voice sounded somewhat choked. Looking into those typically impassive eyes, now tinged with a thin layer of red, she took the initiative, kissing those thin lips for the first time. Falling in love with him, just like in her teenage years, was the simplest thing imaginable. She never expected that on an ordinary weekend, woken by Ethan, brought to a pastoral vineyard to taste cider, she would receive an unprepared proposal. Yet her heart blossomed like flowers. This absolutely matched his style, appearing cold but wild at his core. He might not be the gentlest, but he always provided her with immense security. Having accepted his proposal, Faye naturally needed to meet his parents and relatives. After preparation, they finally embarked on their journey back to the mainland. The experience proved far better than Faye had anticipated. Ethan's family showed remarkable tolerance beyond her imagination. His younger sister was humorous and talkative. From her, Faye learned that Ethan once had a first love, but due to various circumstances and misunderstandings, they lacked the fate to be together. This led to years of melancholy, focusing solely on his career and remaining single. Now that he was willing to marry, even if he had chosen a man, the family would likely have agreed. Ethan had never mentioned how he spent those years. Hearing it from his sisters, mouth felt even more shocking. That night, lying in his embrace, her fingers gently traced his features, her eyes moistening. Thinking he had hurt her, he used his lips to suck away the tear at the corner of her eye, his voice hoarse. "Why are you crying? Did I hurt you somewhere? Let me see." She only shook her head. "Why did you never tell me about those years?" He paused momentarily before understanding, merely kissing the corner of her mouth and responding flatly, "It was too painful and ultimately meaningless. I live only in the present. Everything from the past is gone." Meanwhile, the recently recovered James continued living in the past, unwilling to awaken. He learned from Ruby that Faye was remarrying, and the groom was someone he knew, Ethan Sue, the most praised among their younger generation. He wanted to find her, tell her he still loved her, beg her not to marry. But Ruby had assigned bodyguards for 24-hour hospital accompaniment, absolutely prohibiting him from leaving. "Please, sis, let me see her," he begged. Ruby laughed incredulously. "She's getting married, what business does an ex-husband have seeing her? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Look at your emaciated appearance. Seeing you would only increase her dislike." He still found ways to leave the hospital, secretly taking a car to watch her from afar, seeing her intertwined fingers with another man on the street. Her eyes were bright and captivating. From her smile alone, he could sense her current joy. He glanced at his reflection in the car window. Haggard, gloomy, thin beyond recognition, clearly someone who had escaped from a hospital. In those few minutes, the heart that had longed to see Faye lost its courage. With a dejected expression, he instructed the driver. Back to the hospital. His sister was right, he couldn't appear like this. She wouldn't like it. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly as he noticed the car that had been following them leave. A cold smile curled his lips, at least the man knew his place. Late that night, Ethan visited the hospital alone. Glancing at James sitting vacantly in bed, he spoke dispassionately. "You look much better than the last time you were hospitalized." James raised his head mechanically. "Come to laugh at me? Is that necessary? You've been a laughingstock since your affair became public knowledge." James curved his lips slightly, heart filling with bitterness. His life and marriage had shattered in that moment. He had indeed become a joke. Blinking, he suppressed the pain and coldly asked, "What brings you here?" Ethan revealed his purpose for today's visit. "We've known each other for a while. Going forward, I hope you won't appear before my wife." His face paled as he gritted his teeth. "Do I not even deserve to see her once?" "Deserve?" Ethan scoffed. His naturally cold, hard eyebrows now appeared even more terrifying. "Those who break vows lose what they cherish most. Yet you still fantasize about deserving anything." James's heart jolted, words locked in his throat. His mind roared, breathing becoming labored. With great effort, he finally asked, "She told you about this too?" "I'm her man. What wouldn't I know?" Having spoken, Ethan turned to leave. He had never been particularly kind, he simply concealed his darker aspects in the corners. Now, with someone threatening his happiness, he would never give a rival any chance. That would be cruel to himself. Ethan's unexpected visit shattered James's final fantasy. In the following days, he often sat dazed on his hospital bed, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying, emotions mixing chaotically. His condition worsened. After transferring to a rehabilitation center, Ruby arranged for Lily to accompany him. She now functioned like a caretaker, watching over him. Both their lives were ruined. She now only wanted to extract more money, while leaning on this substantial tree. She couldn't survive in the entertainment industry anymore. Her name invoked universal condemnation. If she could leave, she would have long ago. During his moments of unclear consciousness, he would tenderly call her Faye, and she would mechanically respond. One day, at the hallway corner, she secretly overheard Ruby discussing with the Guthrie parents on the phone. From what she gathered, Mrs. Guthrie had suggested that perhaps marriage and a child might improve James's condition. The idea spread like wildfire in her mind. Wasn't this her best opportunity to secure a position in the Guthrie family? Though she no longer loved James, she still loved money. Calculating, she realized her birth control injections had worn off. The next time he became confused and mistook her for Faye, she drugged him and they became intimate. Soon, she experienced pregnancy symptoms. She confronted Ruby with the truth. Ruby only responded with sarcasm, "You really are something." Ultimately, Ruby's task was fulfilling her parents' wishes. Given her brother's current state, which decent girl would be interested? She arranged for Lily and James to register their marriage. Lily continued visiting James, but her treatment had vastly improved. When he was unaware, she would continue impersonating Faye. She told him he was going to be a father. The man's joyful expression reminded her of their former sweet days. When they became intimate again on the hospital bed, Lily's bold teasing made him suddenly realize something was wrong. "You're not Faye. She would never play these games." "Who are you? Tell me who you are." Lily was suddenly gripped by the throat, nearly suffocating. Only Ruby's unexpected visit saved her life. Seeing the two in a state of undress, anyone could immediately understand what had transpired. Ruby promptly slapped Lily. "What's this? Tired of your comfortable life? So desperate for satisfaction? Shall I send you to work as a prostitute?" Lily immediately shook her head in terror, promising never to repeat such behavior. Dramatically, amid this commotion, James regained clarity of mind. Seeing Lily's swollen belly, he recalled the despicable acts he had committed these past days. His heart ached. The next time Lily visited his hospital room, he wearily asked, "What do you really want?" "Money, houses, I can give you everything. This child, I don't want it." He already had a child. What did Lily's offspring mean to him? Unexpectedly, George and Victoria learned of this and adamantly refused, forcing him to keep the child through filial piety. James's wishes were disregarded. Perhaps because he was ruined, his family no longer valued his opinions. All past considerations became smoke and mirrors. He finally submitted, following the family's arrangements. Momentarily, he reverted to his former refined gentleman persona. His attitude toward Lily gradually softened, though his heart grew increasingly desperate. On a clear, sunny day, he leaped from a high building, his body shattering. His will stipulated that all his assets be transferred to Faye and their son. With James's death, Lily lost her value. As soon as the child was born, Ruby took it away, not even allowing her a glimpse. The Guthrie family blamed James's death on Lily. If she hadn't seduced him and become pregnant, he wouldn't have been driven to suicide. Cut off financially, she couldn't appear in public without being ridiculed and insulted. Unable to find work, she was spotted in a red light district, after which she vanished from news entirely. When Faye heard about them again in Finland, she felt a wave of sighs. How had it come to this? She and James had parted cleanly. Even if they never met again, she had hoped they could each find happiness. How had it become such a scene? She boarded a flight back to the mainland, but this time for a permanent farewell. Holding Andy's hand, she stood before James's tombstone. In the photograph, he still appeared as she remembered handsome features, warm smile, like a spring breeze entering one's heart. Andy curiously fidgeted with his fingers, asking innocently, "Mommy, who is this uncle?" Her throat felt constricted, her eyes rimmed with red. After a long while, she choked out, "It's Daddy." Andy's little head shook in confusion. Wasn't Daddy waiting for them at the mountain base? How was Daddy here too? Faye desperately tilted her head back, trying to conceal her falling tears, but they stubbornly streamed out. "Andy, say goodbye to Daddy." After teaching him to bow 3 times, she stood silently for a long while. In a daze, she returned to that year when she was 19, wearing a backless red dress on the runway, blooming like a fierce flame rose. James, invited as a designer by the organizers, caught a glimpse and was entranced. One glimpse and he was forever smitten. From then on, at every show she attended, he never missed one. The roses he sent her were countless. Juliet, Louis XIV, Green Light, Neptune all rejected. She had seen his disappointment, his frustration, his perplexity. She had watched him gradually understand her preferences. When she casually mentioned liking emeralds, merely to discourage him, he unexpectedly acquired an entire jewelry set at auction for her. She had seen him design the unique love nest villa, finger pointing at the blueprints, lips curved as he told her they would have many children. In their most loving year, he had organized an attention-grabbing fairytale wedding for her. Until she received messages of James's infidelity, her trust in him shattered. Changing her identity, she decisively left. Their courtship, love, marriage, she thought they would spend a lifetime together, never expecting it to end with music finished and people scattered. In just a few short years, she had experienced every emotion with this man: love, hate, intertwined feelings. This time it's truly goodbye. She silently placed a bouquet of white chrysanthemums, donned her sunglasses, and led Andy away by his small hand. At the mountain's base, Ethan sat in the car, his expression impassive, but his gaze constantly checked the downhill path, his curved fingers tapping the steering wheel, betraying his inner unrest. Only when 2 silhouettes, one large and one small, gradually became clear in the distance did his heart finally settle. Opening the car door, he rose and strode quickly to Faye's side, lifting Andy into his arms with one hand while holding hers with the other. The cold touch of her palm transmitted to him. Ethan said nothing, merely placing Andy in the child's seat before silently rubbing her fingers. "I told you I would accompany you and Andy. Why so stubborn?" The only response was a silent sigh. Her eyes were filled with emptiness, breaking his heart. "Ethan, let's go. I don't want to stay here anymore." Her past with James was truly over. James's death still cast a shadow over Faye. On her 3rd day in the mainland, she received a call from Ruby. They arranged to meet at a private cafe. In Faye's mind, Ruby had always been a capable, beautiful sister-in-law, though she wasn't sure about the purpose of this meeting. When they met, Ruby presented her with a document folder. Faye looked puzzled. "What's this?" "The assets James left for you and Andy," Ruby stated directly. She pushed the document back to its original position, responding calmly, "I'm sorry, elder sister. I can't accept this." When she left the mainland, she had sold sufficient assets, many of them valuable pieces James had given her. These were enough to ensure a worry-free life for her and Andy. She had sold them then with a clear conscience, but what was this inheritance about now? Besides, doesn't he have another child? She asked. She lowered her eyes, her fingers stirring coffee involuntarily curling. His money should go to that child. Andy has everything he needs. That child was born without ever seeing his parents. I absolutely cannot accept this money, no matter what. The inheritance matter ultimately faded away. Ruby proposed another request, letting Andy meet his grandparents. Faye agreed. Andy was indeed of Guthrie blood. She wasn't cold-hearted enough to prevent the elderly couple, who had lost their son, from seeing their grandson. A few days later, she brought Andy to the Guthrie family estate. When Victoria saw Andy, Faye noticed her reddened eyes. Andy sat on the sofa, curiously looking around, utterly fascinated. That one, I like, his little chubby hand pointed at an architectural model displayed on the shelf. Ruby couldn't help but curve her lips in a smile. Andy takes after his father. That's James's award-winning project from the youth architectural competition. Ruby continued, Andy, how about becoming an architect someday? Faye's pupils trembled as she gently stroked her son's hair. He was still too young to understand what an architect was, so she simply told him it was someone very capable. Victoria couldn't resist saying, Andy is exactly like James as a child, like they're from the same mold. Grandma adores you, Andy giggled delightedly. In the estate, she saw another child still in swaddling clothes. Her heart ached a little. The taste of being born without parents, she had experienced it herself. Her grievances with James had ended with their divorce. She wouldn't redirect anger toward this innocent baby. She just felt this child was unfortunate. Fortunately, he was born into a wealthy family his life would likely be without worry. Having fulfilled her promise to Ruby, she committed to bringing the child to see his grandparents each year. With no more ties in the mainland, Faye boarded the flight back to Finland. This visit had left her feeling listless and drained. Ethan didn't speak of it, but his concern for her health was evident. Finally, when she felt truly unwell, Ethan forced her to go to the hospital. Hearing the doctor's diagnosis, they were both stunned. The doctor simply delivered his usual instructions. Pregnancy at 4.5 weeks. During this period, take care of your body, avoid excessive fatigue. She couldn't process the rest of his words. Only one thought remained in her mind. Pregnant. She turned to look at Ethan. His naturally cold features made him appear calm, though his twitching facial muscles betrayed his excitement. On the way home, he curved his lips, murmuring, "Going to be a father again." He joked, those parenting guides weren't studied in vain. Thus began his busy life as a devoted dad once more. Faye's heart warmed with tenderness, her emotions no less intense than Ethan's. She had believed she would never have another child. During her days of home confinement, Andy would lie against her stomach, feeling the new life growing inside. "Ah, Mommy, he's moving. Was I like this, in Mommy's tummy?" She nodded with a smile as the family happily awaited the new arrival. During this period, Ethan grew even busier. With Andy, he had only needed to care for Faye. Now, he was looking after 2 people, plus considering their little baby. She had once felt guilty about not being able to give Ethan a child. Fate seemed to enjoy playing jokes on them. In her youth, Ethan had disappeared without a trace. She thought he was just playing with her feelings, cruelly betraying her love. When he returned, it was at her wedding. He offered few explanations, leaving behind a dejected figure. Who would have thought that after all the twists and turns, they would end up together? After 10 months of pregnancy, Faye gave birth to another adorable boy. Andy leaned over the crib, staring intently at the baby. Once Faye had recovered, Ethan proposed having a proper wedding ceremony. Initially, Faye resisted weddings seemed meaningless to her now. She was a mature woman, not a love-struck girl. "Faye, I want everyone to know you're my wife. I want to see you in a white dress. You'll be stunning." Her heart stirred. She had overlooked Ethan's feelings. For him, this was his first marriage. He must be anticipating his wedding day. Finally, she nodded silently, agreeing to the ceremony. On a bright morning, they held an outdoor wedding on a lush green lawn. When Faye appeared in her white wedding gown, followed by Andy as the little flower boy, Ethan's eyes reflected deep love for them both. "Mr. Ethan, Sue, do you take?" Before the minister could finish, Ethan jumped in. "I do." The guests froze for a second before erupting in laughter. At this moment, where was the formerly cool and self-possessed Ethan? Seeing the moisture glistening in his eyes, she couldn't help but tear up herself. Love comes easily, but lasting commitment is difficult. After a bumpy half-lifetime journey, he had remained waiting for her. Her voice softened as she said, "Ethan, thank you. Thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for giving Andy and me a home." She wasn't normally sentimental, but today tears kept falling for some reason. He simply shook his head, gently wiping away her tears with his thumb. "I should be thanking you for giving me this chance. My love, I love you." That night, with a muffled groan from her husband, she was left completely exhausted, tightly embraced in Ethan's arms. As her consciousness faded, she felt him kissing her cheeks. Life stretched long before them. Together, they would witness their children's growth, traveling the world as a family. They would both change, but one thing would remain constant: their hearts that loved each other.